Hi there, my name is Michelle Gressick, and I'm the host of the Acupuncture Marketing School podcast. And today we'll be talking about how to use AI to generate content for your marketing so you can save time and just generally make your life easier. And before we dive into the slides, I'd like to thank the American Acupuncture Council for the opportunity to be here with you today. All right, let's get started. Okay, so let's talk about using AI for your marketing content creation. How can you use it to be much more efficient? So, very quickly, what will we be talking about today? First, why use AI for this? How is it helpful? Is it really helpful? And I also want to talk about this concept of content creation and whether it still matters. I know everyone is drowning in a sea of content. So the answer is yes, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And we'll also talk about how to use AI and what to use it for. What are the things that you can ask it to do for you? And specifically, when I'm saying AI, I'm referring to the free version of ChatGPT. We'll talk about how to create effective prompts. This is one of the most important things you can learn about ChatGPT. The better prompts you ask, the better your results will be, hands down. And I'll give you some examples. Okay, so why use AI for content generation? I mean, the easiest answer, the simplest answer is that it will cut down the amount of time it takes you to create content by about 1/4. Okay, it will just make the process so much more efficient. And we live in a world where we are expected for marketing to do a ton of content creation, and it can be very overwhelming. It's a bit of a hamster wheel. I'm sure you're familiar. And I personally think that one of the best ways to retain your sanity in digital marketing is to use ChatGPT or other AI to help you either generate content ideas or generate the content itself, and to repurpose content, which you can see is the last bullet on this list. ChatGPT can help you with repurposing. Okay, and repurposing content simply means taking something that you've already created or written for one platform, like a blog post, and copying and pasting it, making it some tweaks, breaking it down into parts so that you can use it on other platforms like Instagram captions or email newsletters. Those are the most common ones that acupuncturists are repurposing content for, and Facebook, of course, other social media. But there's this idea, keep writing similar content over and over. You can just repurpose what you've already created. That saves time to begin with. And then asking ChatGPT to do that for you drastically cuts down on the amount of time that you need. And of course, on top of that, asking AI to write the content or help you with ideas cuts down on that time yet again. Okay, so really to make content creation reasonable and manageable in the world that we live in, I think both of those things are essential, ChatGPT and repurposing content. Okay. And sometimes people ask me, does content still matter? As I said earlier, everybody's drowning in content. There's more articles on the internet than any one person could ever read in their lifetime. Like, why should I contribute to that? Why should I keep adding? So something I want you to think about is uh, is Google and the way that it works for a search. So Google's purpose is to provide the best possible experience for its users. So if you type a query into Google, it wants to give you the most relevant, best answer that it thinks answers your question that you will like, because Google wants you to keep using it. Do you remember Ask Jeeves? Yeah, I'm dating myself, right? No one uses it. It doesn't even exist anymore because other search engines were better. Okay, so Google never wants to become irrelevant like that. Its goal is to provide a good user experience. So you can help Google do that by writing content for your website. So people always ask me, is blogging is kind of old school. It's dead, isn't it? So I always say no for two reasons. One, every time you publish a blog post on your website, that's another page on your website. Google likes websites that are updated regularly because it shows to Google that this business is still active and is still relevant. Compared to a business, maybe the acupuncturist down the street from you who opened their doors 10 years ago, published their website, and has not touched their website in a decade, clearly Google is going to think that your website, where you're publishing monthly or maybe every 2 months publishing a blog post, it's more active. It's probably going to be a more relevant, better user experience and answer the person's question better than a website that's been ignored for a decade. Okay, so that's one reason. And two is that when you are publishing content on your website, whether it's a blog post or a more formal page on your website, you are naturally including keywords that your ideal patient would be searching for. So if you specialize in orthopedic acupuncture for runners, for helping them, recover from injuries and be able to do marathons, whatever it is, you could write a series of blog posts specific to that. Like, I'm a marathon runner, thinking about what are the questions that this person would put into Google if they need help, if they've got a knee injury, right? How long after a knee injury can I, or before I start running again with acupuncture? Think about what are they asking, and then write blog posts about those topics so that all of those keywords are on your website and you just become so relevant to Google that it brings you up towards the top of the search because you are answering those questions and you are helping the person writing the query. You're the answer to that query. Okay. So I'm repeating myself. I'll move on, but that really is why blogging and content creation is relevant for you as an individual with a brick and mortar local business, because that's what Google wants to send your way. But it needs you to help it do that. You have to establish your relevance on your website so that Google can crawl it and understand that relevance. So yes, blogging and content creation are still important. And just in general, creating educational content for your audience. It doesn't matter if you only have 100 followers on Instagram. Teaching them about what you do and how acupuncture can help them is always going to be relevant. And it just falls under the name of content creation. Okay. So one question that people always ask me about AI is they're kind of nervous about using it. They don't know how to use it. They don't know what its capabilities are, how far reaching it is, these sort of things. So I always tell people to use ChatGPT to your comfort level. You could ask it to do brainstorming with you or to write you an outline for a blog post or an email newsletter. You don't have to ask it to write the entire content piece. You could ask it to write you the whole blog post, but you don't have to. So use it to your comfort level. And you could also think about AI from this perspective. I find this really helpful. And an AI professional that I met last year shared this idea with me that AI is like a really eager, enthusiastic assistant. Imagine if you had a receptionist in your office who had free time and just loved to write and kept saying, let me help you write Instagram posts. Let me help you write blog content. Let me write your email newsletters. You'd have to teach that person a little bit about the tone you want them to write, the concepts that are important to include or things not to say, and you would expect them to do an enormous amount of research, right? So that is what ChatGPT is doing. It's doing an enormous amount of research to find the answers. And when you write a prompt, that is the same as you explaining to your receptionist how you want them to put this content piece together. You're giving them instructions so that they write something that is relevant to your business, your community, your ideal patients, your specialty, etc., including your tone of voice and all of the details. Okay, so try to think about ChatGPT in this really positive way where it's a smart, enthusiastic assistant that just wants to lighten your load and make your job easier. Okay. So what can you ask ChatGPT to help you with? Honestly, the sky's the limit. Anything that you can think of. I would say that the major things that people tend to ask for are one, brainstorming or idea generation, two, writing outlines for content, or three, writing the content itself. So you could ask ChatGPT to write you a list of maybe 2 blog posts, basically like write me a content calendar outline for this year with 2 topics per month. Okay, so 2 blog posts. It's just an easy place to start, or 2 email newsletters per month. And what would their topics be for the whole year? So before you do this, in your prompt, it's very important that you tell ChatGPT about your business, about your target market, about your specialty if you have one. Basically, give it as much information as you can so that it can give you relevant results. And we'll talk more about things to include in your prompts in a little bit, but it helps enormously the more information you can give it. So it could give you an outline for a blog post. Let's say you really wanted to write that blog post about knee injuries and recovery with acupuncture for marathon runners. And you just have writer's block and you just want to get it done so that you can repurpose it into an email newsletter and send it to your list. You could ask ChatGPT to write you an outline for this blog post. Okay, and then you could write it yourself. Or once you have that outline, you could say, okay, this is great. Please don't include this bullet point. That's not relevant. But please write this blog post for me. And also make sure you answer the question, how many treatments do I need and why? Okay, and then it will give you the blog post. You can also, of course, you can ask it to write social media captions as well. You can also take content that you already wrote, copy and paste it into ChatGPT, and then ask it to repurpose that content into other formats. So if you wrote an email newsletter, you could put it into ChatGPT and say, please repurpose this as a blog post incorporating these important keywords for my website. Or please take this email newsletter and break it down into 2 Instagram captions. Okay? So you can ask it to do or help you create ideas for just about anything. You can also talk with ChatGPT. This class is really for beginners, people who don't have a ton of experience, or maybe you've sort of dipped your toe in and you didn't get great results from ChatGPT. So we'll talk about how to improve your prompts so you get better results. But I just want you to know, if you don't have a lot of experience with ChatGPT, you talk to it like a person. You ask for revisions. You can say, I like this part, but this part's not relevant, and here's why. And if you stay signed in, it will remember, okay, most of the things that you're telling it. Sometimes you have to repeat, but that's okay. For the most part, it's going to remember important things. So if you are just dipping your toe in and you've never used it before, I would recommend beginning with repurposing content. So find a piece of content that you wrote that really represents your business, your ideal patient, your specialty, and copy and paste it into ChatGPT and ask it to use that as the basis for creating other kinds of content. So if it was, for example, a really great Instagram post caption that got a lot of engagement with your audience, got people asking questions, maybe you got new patients because people were asking you questions about it, and you felt like it really represented who you are and what you're doing in your practice, that's a great place to start. So you could put it into ChatGPT and say, can you please repurpose this as a blog post or as an email newsletter? Or based on this information, can you suggest other Instagram post topics or other topics that I could write about for my blog? Okay. So if you are new, begin with repurposing content. And I put that little note in the first bullet that says repurposing content can go in any direction, because I often talk about starting with a blog post and then breaking that down and repurposing it into email newsletters and multiple Instagram or Facebook posts, etc. But you can go in the other direction. as I just mentioned, if you have a great Instagram post or email newsletter, that could become a blog post or a new page on your website, etc. So as I've been saying, the way that you ask ChatGPT for something is very important, and that's called the prompt. So the more descriptive and specific you can be in your request, in your prompt, the better results you'll need and the fewer revisions you'll need to ask for. Now, if you ask ChatGPT to write a whole piece of content for you, like a blog post from start to finish, it's normal to expect that you will need it to do some revisions, and you'll probably still have to do some tweaks and edits even after the revision, just to make sure it sounds like you, that it feels authentic, that you think it is really going to resonate with your ideal patients. And that's normal, okay? But the better prompts you write, the less of that you will have to do, okay? So what can you include in a prompt? Let's go with the blog post example. That's clearly my favorite. So you can first tell ChatGPT about your business, describe your ideal patient and your target market and your specialty, and then tell it why you need this piece of content. What are you going to use it for? What's its purpose? That's important for ChatGPT to know. And then you can ask it to write this piece of content in a specific tone of voice. For example, warm but professional. Or you could say friendly and warm. And so let's say you ask for professional. Please write this blog post about XYZ in a professional tone of voice, and then you add all the other information about your business, your target market, and the purpose of the piece. And maybe it produces something that is like very formal, way too professional, and you realize, oh, this is not the tone that I use on my website. So all you have to say is, actually, this is too formal in tone. Can you please write it in a more warm and friendly tone? Or you might have to use a thesaurus to kind of figure out what are the descriptive words that you want to use until you hit on the right tone. Now, let's say you finally land on a tone that feels appropriate, right? Like you nailed it. Write down those descriptive words that you put in your prompt so that if needed, you can ask for them again in the future so you get a consistent tone, okay? And you can also say to ChatGPT anything you definitely want it to include or not, okay? You can tell it how long you want something to be. If you want an 800-word blog post, then say that. You can take a piece of content you've already written. Let's say you wrote something about acupuncture for fertility and you feel like it really represents, again, your specialty and your target market. And you can copy and paste that in there, but then give it instructions to write a different piece of content, maybe about acupuncture for PMS. And you can ask it to use that content example as a formatting for writing this new piece of content, okay? So that can sort of substitute for giving it all these specific instructions about like tone of voice, et cetera, so that it basically tries to write something like your previous piece. So you have that consistency. You can also give it specific numbers. If you have a blog post and you want Instagram to give you if you have a blog post and you want ChatGPT to give you 3 Instagram posts, then say so. Okay, if you want it to give you 6 ideas for a subject line for an email, ask for 6, okay? And again, don't be afraid to ask for revisions, because once ChatGPT produces something for you, it will typically say, I hope this is what you were looking for. Let me know if you need changes. And if you want changes, just say so. It will do it instantly. And if you don't like the changes, you can always go back and use the initial for further revisions, okay? And lastly, I'll say that you can ask ChatGPT questions about itself. so that you can learn how to use it better. For example, when I first started using ChatGPT, and I'm using the free version, so I'm not sure if this is possible in the paid version, but I had asked it, if I give you the web, the hyperlink for a website, can you then read the web page and summarize the page for me? And it answered and said, no, I can't do that from you giving me the link, but if you want to copy and paste the text on the page, then I can give you a summary. Okay, so you can basically ask ChatGPT or tell it, here's what I want, and then ask it, what information do you need to create this for me? Okay, so you can really engage with it so that, basically you're going to learn to use it more effectively and efficiently so that it takes up less of your time and you get a better result. And then you have to spend way less time on your marketing. That's our goal. Okay. So I really hope all of this is helpful. It's definitely a crash course in using ChatGPT for marketing and content. I hope it inspires you just to dip your toe in. If you've never used ChatGPT before, try repurposing a piece of content. And, if you used it in the past and got kind of like weird or mediocre results, really practice your prompts and give it a lot more information and play around with it. And I think you'll see that you get even better results. Okay, so as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you. If you have questions about marketing, you are more than welcome to send me an email, michelle@michellegrassick.com. I clearly love talking about and teaching marketing, so I am more than happy to chat with you.